And coming at you live with another live one for all you wrestling fanatics out there. And welcome to another edition of the Collision Collective review for AEW Collision. I am not your normal host, Mikey, but I am stepping in this week to fill in for our normal co host, Adolfo, who is out living his best life performing at these Ren fairs. And I'm just happy to kind of get into another episode of AEW Collision. It has been a while, and I do apologize for that. Behind the scenes, things have been kind of busy, but I am happy to pretty much give you this in depth episode of Collision, which I've always wanted to do for quite some time now. It's never lined up, but now I am able to give you a review for AEW Collision. This episode was interesting because a lot of people on the internet wrestling community said that this was not a good episode. And while I did have my faults with it, I actually kind of really enjoyed it. And I will explain that as I get into the review. Overall, I thought this was a pretty fun episode. I do have some critiques here and there, but it's not as bad as people are making it out to be. And I also want to put a disclaimer here. There's a lot of people who decided to abandon Collision once CM Punk got fired. And while I am a huge fan of CM Punk, as a lot of the community is, one person to me does not make a show. Yes, it kind of messed up the stuff we had going on with Ricky Starks, but when Punk got fired, Bryan Danielson stepped in and he is finishing this feud out with Ricky now. So Bryan is always there to help and become the superstar that he is and to put over other people. And since we're talking about Bryan Danielson anyway, why don't we just jump into the match that opened AEW Collision this week? We get Ricky Starks and Big Bill taking on the T of Blackpool Combat Club, which is being represented in this match by Bryan Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli. I thought this match was a lot of fun. There were some fun spots in here. Some highlight moments from this particular match was the double clothesline from the double clothesline. Claudio having to hit multiple European uppercuts to stagger Big Bill. The attempt to hoist Big Bill up. Ricky Starks being amazing. The helicopter blades into this big swing, which was a lot of fun. The tope suicida on Big Bill was a lot of fun. But ultimately, this match was Ricky Starks as the ref was being distracted. Ricky hits Bryan Danielson in the nether region, so to speak. Try not to get demonetized here. And he is able to kind of hit with the Rochambeau, and Ricky Starks pinned Danielson. So therefore, the winners of your match is Big Bill and Ricky Starks. I immediately love the results of this match for a couple of reasons. Number one, it continues to establish Ricky Starks and Big Bill as a tag team, which I always am here for. The other thing here that is more important to me is the fact that Ricky Starks continues to get these wins, even though it is probably not my favorite finish of the ref being distracted and then going for a low blow. But ultimately, Ricky Starks winning is the right call, in my opinion, as it continues his momentum as we're continuing to build the future of AEW. And this is not the last we will see of Ricky and Big Bill, which I will talk about later in the review. But this was a fun start to this episode of Collision. We head backstage to see a recap video of Mogul Embassy and Swerve issuing the challenge of a six-man tag at Grand Slam this upcoming week. And we get a response promo from the Hung Bucks, which is Hangman Adam Page and the Young Bucks. Essentially, what this is that they accept, but they want to add stakes to this metaphorical grill, so to speak, and they want the Ring of Honor six-man World Championships on the line for this. And we found out later through the bumpers that this match is indeed happening. It will be for the Ring of Honor six-man tag team championships, and it will be at Rampage Grand Slam this Friday as part of the special 2-hour Rampage this upcoming Friday. I think that Mogul Embassy is still going to retain the titles. I don't un- I don't foresee the Hung Bucks picking up the titles. There's no need for them to. I also, on the other hand, Mogul Embassy has been holding these titles for a very long time, and I'm trying to figure out what we want to do with them. But I think the match is going to be great, and I'm super excited to cover this match when we do the Grand Slam Rampage next week. After this, we get a vignette between Powerhouse Hobbs and Miro. Essentially, what this is that Powerhouse Hobbs is looking to continue to destroy Miro, and Miro is continuing to try to be on his path of being forsaken by his wrestling god, so to speak, if we want to put it that way. And he brings up CJ Perry, his real life wife, of how she's become a distraction to this mission. And ultimately, I enjoyed this because we are getting this feud to continue and we are still setting it up. I think the next time these guys cross paths, Powerhouse Hobbs should win the second round. And then we get a rubber match where ultimately, which sucks to say because I like Powerhouse Hobbs, but I think Miro should be the one to get the win because ultimately he's one of the stars you want to build on Collision. But I love this feud and I'm excited. Something else that got me excited was this next match for the AEW Tag Team Championships between challengers Iron Savages being accompanied to the ring by Jack Jameson, taking on your AEW World Tag Team Champions, FTR. My only critique with this match is it was really short. It was only about 3.5 minutes or so. And I get it. It was short because all you wanted to do in this match was showcase the Iron Savages and their power moves. And then ultimately have FTR, being the consummate professionals that they are, pick up the win here and defeat them and retain their titles. I would have loved at least 5 to 7 minutes, but I love the Iron Savages. If you have listened to our Ring of Honor reviews, you know that me and my co host for that, JVL, love the Iron Savages. They are big guys who are surprisingly athletic and very strong. And the match itself, while I wanted a little more time, it accomplished with what it needed to, so I didn't ultimately hate it. However, it is what happened after the match that I have it be more interested. So after this match and FTR beats the Iron Savages, the Workhorsemen, which is the tag team of Anthony Henry and JD Drake, come out. And essentially, this is the next open challenge team that FTR will face for the titles. First of all, well, let me back this up. I like JD Drake. Anthony Henry is still kind of the on the fence for me. But what I'm finding interesting in all this is all the tag teams that FTR is facing in these open challenges technically are a part of the Ring of Honor tag team division. And I'm kind of starting to see that you're bringing all these tag teams up from Ring of Honor, putting them in these open challenges for FDR, or if you're the Kingdom, you're putting them with MJF and Adam Cole storyline. And my biggest critique of all this is that now that all these tag teams are slowly coming up to Collision and Dynamite and Rampage, you're depleting the tag team division in Ring of Honor, but it makes a lot of sense because those tag team titles are on MJF and Adam Cole. And I said this in my Rampage review. I still think that that was a bad decision to put these tag team championships on MJF and Adam Cole in terms of using them as a prop to further a storyline rather than the prestige that these tag team championships have had. But I don't want to rehash my reasoning and my argument. I said all I had to during the Rampage review, but I'm excited to see the Workhorsemen and FTR go at it. I do hope that this is given time and it's not another 3 minute match. And we'll just see what happens from there. So I've seen a lot of people online criticize this next backstage segment, but I don't know if it was on purpose, if it wasn't. I'm not reading too much into it. People are allowed to make mistakes. It's not that big of a deal. But we see Keith Lee. Shout out to Keith Lee's jacket, by the way, which he's still rocking the Gear 5 Luffy on his jacket from One Piece. Listen, Keith Lee is an anime fan. Him and his wife, Mia Yim, I love those nerds to death. They are great. But Keith Lee is backstage and he is interrupted in the middle of his interview by Shane Taylor and Lee Moriarty. If you do not know, Keith Lee and Shane Taylor were a tag team in Ring of Honor years ago under Shane Taylor Productions. And I love seeing Keith Lee and Shane Taylor now be on opposite ends, where Keith is more of a face, Shane Taylor is a heel. And it seems that we're going to get this feud between Shane Taylor, Lee Moriarty, and Keith Lee. I am here for it. Now, this interview was staged a little weirdly, and it seems that people forgot their words. So I have to critique this segment a little bit for that. But I really enjoyed this, and if this gets Keith Lee on my television screen, I am not going to complain about this. And especially with Lee versus Shane Taylor, and then Keith versus Lee Moriarty, I think this has the potential to be something really, really fun. Okay, so I'm not going to lie. I love the main event, and Chris and Britt are my girls, and that was a phenomenal main event. But when I tell you that this next match is probably my match of the night, is a bit of an understatement. So, this next match, we see John Silver taking on Anthony Bowens of the Acclaimed. Woo, this match was awesome. I loved it so much. So before the match, John Silver and the Dark Order shenanigans begin because he gets on the mic. It says, "This contract that you signed, I guess you didn't read it because it says that Max Caster and Billy Gunn are banned from ringside, so they need to hit the bricks." And on top of that, he also said before the match even started, "I Googled what scissoring is, and you guys aren't doing it right." And I lost my mind. I was laughing. I had a pause. It was hilarious. But this match ruled. So from the get-go, Anthony and John Silver just went into it. Silver attacked Bowens from behind, but then Anthony Bowens countered it with some strikes with John Silver in the corner. Anthony then body slammed John Silver. And at this point, this is where Bowens kind of takes the offense a little bit by giving him a leg lariat. They exchange forearms. A clothesline gets hit. Explosive offense included a German suplex from John Silver. It was great. As Anthony clocked Silver with a knee strike and kind of rolled out of the ring, Evil Uno, while the ref was distracted as John Silver climbed in and was feigning being hurt, he blindsides Anthony Bowens, and John Silver takes advantage of the distraction and literally just cracks Bowens across the jaw and pins him for the 1-2-3. So your winner of this match is John Silver of the Dark Order. I had expressed the last couple of weeks where I have stated in Ring of Honor reviews and just in general to the other Biconics hosts, I want to see Dark Order enter a feud and actually go after some championship gold because they've been sidelined and being relegated to sidekicks since the inception of AEW 4 years ago. And I'm happy to see that they're finally getting this feud with the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. Ultimately, I do think that it'll probably lead to a Trios Championship match. If not on television at Full Gear, I can see this being carried out to then. But who knows? And we got to wait to see what we're gonna get at Full Gear. But I thought this was my match of the night. It was a lot of fun. Johnny Hungy is one of my favorite characters. He's hilarious. The athleticism of both him and Anthony Bowens was awesome to watch. And this is why this match was my match of the night. But I will talk about the main event because I still really enjoyed it. Next, we get a backstage segment with your New Japan Strong Open Weight Champion, Eddie Kingston. And all this does, it continues to set up the match that we're going to get at Dynamite Grand Slam, which is a title versus title match where Eddie Kingston is putting his New Japan Openweight Championship on the line against Claudio Castagnoli's Ring of Honor World Championship. I'm still hoping that Eddie wins this match. I go check out our Ring of Honor review, but me and JVL has said on a consistent week-to-week basis that it's really hard to get invested in your world title, your main title, for Ring of Honor when your champion is not defending it on the Ring of Honor show. And it's a travesty. So hopefully, with Eddie winning this title, he'll bring some relevancy back to the title, and we will actually get to see it defended on Ring of Honor more often. And plus, you're going to be at Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York for Grand Slam, and Eddie Kingston is from that area, so it would be a crime, in my opinion, if Eddie does not win at Grand Slam. But what do I know? I don't work for AEW. We then jump into another backstage segment where Renee is looking to interview Orange Cassidy and Hook. And literally, this just sets up with Orange Cassidy said, we should do a tag team match or something, Grand Slam. And Hook's like, let's do it. So it seems we're going to get the team of Orange Cassidy and Hook in some sort of tag team match at Grand Slam. I'm okay with this. I'm here for it. Hook, Orange Hook, Hook Orange, Hook Cassidy Hook. We're still working on the names of this tag teams and we'll figure it out. But Orange Cassidy and Hook is awesome. I still wish that it was Hookhausen with Danhausen and Hook. But who knows? Maybe you could throw Danhausen into this mix and this would be the weird trio that I never knew I wanted, but I'm here for it. So after this little segment, this kind of takes us into hour 2, where we get a pretty much a squash match between Aussie Open, being represented by Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis, taking on Pretty Boy Smooth and Wes Barkley. And I would like to thank AEW's website for giving me the names, because on TV, they got no little infographic. They didn't get told what we had. And thank you, AEW.com, for giving me the names once I was making sure I had everything in my notes. I mean, I said this on the Rampage review. My boys, Aussie Open, are not being used to their full potential. And it makes me sad, because I think they're an awesome tag team. But I did get excited. So ultimately, this was a quick 49-second squash match. Aussie Open pick up the victory. But then it was the promo they cut after this match that made me excited. Basically, they called out FTR with them giving everybody an open challenge. So Aussie Open decide that they're going to call their shot, and at AEW's Wrestle Dream pay-per-view, Sunday, October 1st in Seattle, Washington, it will be Aussie Open versus, at this point, FTR for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Listen, I love my boys FTR. God, I hope Aussie Open wins those titles. And I'm super excited for this match at Wrestle Dream. But again, I wish that the boys were getting booked better. Now, if Tony Khan decides to give Aussie Open the tag titles at Wrestle Dream, I will be happy and I will stop my complaints, so to speak. Next, we get a video vignette package / interview segment with Toni Storm in The Life of a Starlet. I love this crazy Marilyn Monroe character that Toni Storm is giving us. It's one of my favorites. So she sits down with RJ City and kind of goes into like a mockumentary style of interview. And RJ City just asks her how it feels that she's going to be facing Saraya ahead of their match for the AEW Women's World Championship at Grand Slam. And Toni Storms basically says in this interview, I haven't changed, the business has. You know, Toni believes that the business is about being stars and not signing every little girl with a sob story. And it's about being a star and making money for it. And if this makes her the odd woman out, then so be it. And then we get a to be continued. Man, I'm really excited. I don't think Toni Storm is taking that title off of Saraya. I'm interested to see if we carry on with this feud. And once again, poor Ruby Soho is just the side character in this feud. I think all 3 women need to go their separate ways, but you know, we'll see what happens. Next up was a phenomenal match between Andrade El Idolo taking on Scorpio Sky. I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of surprised that Scorpio lost in this match, but then again, Andrade has been on a roll, and Andrade to me is somebody you want to build up for Collision, just like Scorpio Sky. I thought this was a phenomenal match. I will admit it looked a little bit like Scorpio is still shaking off the ring rust, which is to be expected since he's been out on injury for almost a year now. But I'm happy to see Scorpio do well and Andrade hitting Andrade hitting the figure eight for the win to make Scorpio Sky tap out. That was great. Then after the match, we have Bullet Club Gold come on out. And essentially, what this does is that it sets up what looks to be Andrade versus Jay White at some point. And honestly, if I could put my Booker hat on for a little bit, I think and I would love to see that the Bullet Club Gold and the numbers game messes with Andrade. So Andrade has to call in backup. And ultimately, I would love to see Bullet Club Gold versus La Facción Ingornables in a 8-man tag match at some point. I would love to see it. Please save it for Full Gear, please. I want to see this match at Full Gear. I want to see it so bad. Don't put it on TV. Selfishly, I want this match at Full Gear because breaking news, I will be at Full Gear this year since it is in my backyard of SoCal. So I'm super excited to be there. But again, Bullet Club Gold, give them to me every single week on television. And the possibility of Jay White versus Andrade makes me super excited, and I can't wait. We then cut into a vignette which basically recaps everything that happened with Don Callis and Konosuke Takeshita on AEW Dynamite, where their next target is going to be Kota Ibushi in order to further break Kenny Omega's mind, spirit, and heart. And I'm here for it. I do hope, as our co-hosts, the Professor and JBL, mentioned during their Dynamite review this week, I hope that Kota Ibushi and Takeshita are able to work some magic, because I know it's been a bit for Kota and he's still kind of working his way through being off for a year and rehabbing his arm and not going as crazy as he used to. So here's hoping that this leads into something awesome. We cut to commercial, and when we come back, this is my favorite promo because of how simple and absurdly funny this was. Tony Schiavone is with the Ring of Honor Pure Champion Katsuyori Shibata, who basically uses Google Translate and says, "I'm the best wrestler, and I will have a match at Wrestle Dream," and that was it. And when I tell you, I screamed at my television because anytime you give me Katsuyori Shibata in a technical match, please let it be for the Pure Rules Championship. I'm interested to see who he's going to face. God, I hope it's going to be great. I think it's going to be great. Honestly, I could think of put Josh Woods on this match. Orange Cassidy would be hilarious. Daniel Garcia would be a lot of fun. But I want a good technical match. Shoot, we're already getting Zack Sabre Jr. versus Bryan Danielson, which is going to be amazing. But I hope they also give Katsuyori someone who is on that level of the technical wrestling. And as much as I love Wheeler, I don't want to see Wheeler versus Katsuyori, but give me someone new. I would be okay with Josh or whoever else. Listen, if we're getting New Japan folks over here, give me some New Japan stars to face off against Katsuyori Shibata. I am super excited. I would love to see all this go down. I don't I don't care. We don't know who he's facing, but I don't care. Katsuyori Shibata at Wrestle Dream, give it to me. I'm gonna be happy either way. So, in a debut for this tag team, again, they're in Ring of Honor. So, Tony, we're gonna have to have a talk later. Why do we keep pulling tag teams from Ring of Honor? I mentioned this earlier, but it didn't bug me until now because next we have a match between the Hardys, so Matt and Jeff Hardy, taking on the Righteous, who are having their AEW Collision in-ring debut, so to speak. I thought this match was okay. Again, Matt and Jeff are doing the best that they can, given that their age. And I actually didn't have a problem with the promo that the Righteous cut afterwards, but the Hardys do their Hardy things, but eventually the Righteous turn the tides. Matt and Jeff get knocked over the top rope by Dutch with a double clothesline as Jeff is going for a swanton bomb. He gets knocked down by Dutch, and then Vincent rocks Jeff and pins him. And then they cut this promo afterwards where they basically introduce themselves. And essentially, that they're out here to dispel the curtain that is around MJF and Adam Cole. They dropped the tag team name for them, Better Than You, Baby. So it seems that the Righteous and Better Than You, Baby are entering a promo. Okay, sure, why not? Um, honestly, I okay with it. I think this would be an interesting feud. Though this would be a weird tag team to take those titles off of Better Than You, Baby. I ultimately think this is going to be a feud that is just a placeholder till we eventually get to Better Than You, Baby versus the Kingdom. And I think the Kingdom still should be the ones to take the titles off of Better Than You, Baby. But we'll just have to wait and see. As a Ring of Honor stan, I love the Righteous. I do critique their promos because it's like two different people with two different accents trying to go for two different kinds of styles of a faction, but I'm here for Vincent and Dutch. And it was interesting to see that AEW Collision crowd was booing them to high heaven, which was kind of funny. On the one hand, it works because they are heels, but it made me sad because you all are booing them because they're talking crap about MJF and Adam Cole. And as a quick side note, I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this. I love what we've gotten so far with Adam Cole and MJF. The buddy cop thing was one of my favorite things over the summer. But now we're starting to write ourselves into a corner, as the professor likes to say. And my issue with all this is I'm afraid that we're going to keep feeding Better Than You, Baby tag teams until eventually they want to go give the Kingdom a shot. But my biggest fear is that the Kingdom will lose and those Ring of Honor tag team championships are still on them. And I've already said this. I just don't want tag teams to keep being fed to Better Than You, Baby, for the sake of furthering their storyline instead of putting the tag team titles where they belong on people who are going to go to Ring of Honor and defend the titles. But that's neither here nor there. We then surprisingly get the bumpers before a segment for Grand Slam Dynamite, Grand Slam Rampage, as well as some of the matches we're going to get for Collision next week. So I'm excited. As of right now, the card for Dynamite Grand Slam is MJF versus Samoa Joe for the AEW World Championship. John Moxley will be defending the International Championship against Rey Fenix. We also have the title for title match between Claudio Castagnoli and Eddie Kingston. We have Chris Jericho versus Sammy Guevara. And we have Saraya defending her AEW Women's Championship against Toni Storm. Then on Grand Slam Rampage on Friday, which is going to be a special 2-hour show, we have Mogul Embassy taking on the Hung Bucks for the Ring of Honor 6-man World Tag Team Championships. Luchasaurus and Christian will be taking on Darby Allin and Sting. And then I'm trying to remember what the other match we're getting for Dynamite Rampage is. I forget. So, but I think there was one more match and I forget. And if you guys in the comments below remember, so let me know. Please do, because I can't really think about it off the top of my head. But now it is time for our main event, in which we see Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, take the challenger, take on Chris Statlander for the TBS Championship. Okay, I'm going to be completely honest. I thought Chris had no chance of winning here because commentary kept mentioning that we are in Britt Baker's hometown, Penn State. And I was like, oh gosh, they're going to take the title off Chris, and Britt's going to have it. And I know Britt is a homegrown star, but my biggest issue is right now she hasn't really done a lot lately. And as much as I love Chris, as much as I love Britt, I do not want to see Chris lose the title. So I thought Britt was going to win this match. This match ruled in the sense that both Britt and Chris did a really good job of going back and forth. Seeing Chris continue to show off her power moves is a fantastic thing, and seeing how much Britt has evolved since being a homegrown star from her first year in the company. The fact that Britt Baker had to give 2 stomps to Chris Statlander. And I thought after the second stomp, I thought that was it. But then we get to the finisher. So Britt goes for a Pittsburgh Sunrise, which, you had to change the name because you can't use Panama because that is her fiance's Adam Cole's finisher. And then she gets into the lock. So Britt goes for the lockjaw for the first attempt, but Chris blocks it. And they trade shots again. So then Chris clocks Britt with a high kick, but then Britt fires back with a thrust kick of her own. Chris is kind of reared back, and Britt Baker just goes for a lariat. And then we get to this finisher, as I mentioned, the Pittsburgh Sunrise, but Chris blocks it. Chris goes for a power bomb, but Britt escapes. Britt plants Chris with the angel wings and then a curb stomp for a near fall, and then applies the lockjaw successfully. But Chris, in being contortioned through the lockjaw, cradles Britt Baker and pins her for the 1-2-3. That was creative finish, and still your TBS champion is Chris Statlander. At the end of the match, Chris goes to shake Britt's hand. They exchange hands. Britt raises Chris's hand and then begins to leave as AEW Collision goes off the air. I wouldn't be surprised if we're not done with this feud. And I actually really enjoyed this match. I still think that John Silver versus Anthony Bowens is my match of this episode of Collision. But this was a fun main event, and this was the and somebody brought this attention to me, and I love to see it. This is so far, this is 5 out of the 6 shows this week all had women main event for their respective shows, which I love to see. Listen, women's wrestling is the future. I would love to see more women main eventing and putting more women's matches. As we here at the Biconics always state, we want to see women's wrestling thrive, which means y'all need to put more promos and matches on your card and not just give us one promo or one match a week. We want to see it all. That is going to bring us to the end of the AEW Collision review this week. I am going to give my rating using our host's Luis's empanada scale. So out of 5 empanadas, I give this a solid 3 out of 5 empanadas. I really enjoyed this AEW Collision. And despite the very toxic fan base that said that CM Punk was the only draw to Collision and that it's not worth watching, I say to you, please continue to watch AEW Collision. Bryan Danielson being the one in charge of writing and having some booking power behind the stage. Bryan Danielson has a beautiful mind for wrestling, and I would put him on the same level, if not maybe a little bit better than Triple H when it comes to booking. But come on, this episode was really good. We got storylines to progress. The right people, in my opinion, won their matches. The main event was a lot of fun. John Silver and Anthony Bowens killed it. And what more can you possibly ask for? I enjoyed AEW Collision this week. And even though I had my critiques about it, as I stated, I give this a solid 3 out of 5 empanadas. And that is going to be the end of our Collision Collective review. If you like what we do here at the Biconics Wrestling YouTube channel, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, and check out some of our other long form videos. We review all the weekly shows as well as all the pay-per-views from all of the wrestling brands from Impact, WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor. We got a whole lot of stuff. Make sure to follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestleProd. We're pretty much everywhere on Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, TikTok. We got all the social medias to stay up to date when these videos go live, as well as some behind the scenes stuff. And finally, if you want to hear a more unhinged version of what we're like, you could check us out at the Biconics Wrestling Podcast, where we pretty much do everything except for television reviews there. We argue, we fight, sometimes we cry a little bit, we call each other out. It is a chaotic time, but it is so good because when you have a bunch of people who are passionate about this, it's a really fun listen to, and it's a fun time. So make sure to follow us where all podcasts can be found, whether it be Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music. We are everywhere. But that is going to be it. I have been your Collision Collective host, Mikey. I am super excited to hopefully be back next week to review another episode of AEW Collision. And make sure you stay tuned this week because you're going to be seeing some new faces across the Biconics reviews this week as we have added some more members to our family. But until the next review, as always, from all of us here at the Biconics, take care of yourself, love one another, and until the next review, be Biconic. See you later.